listening to a Broken Reel Media production. Welcome back to the Something's Wrong Here podcast. I am Randy.
I'm Kinsey.
And I'm Brian.
And tonight,
perfect,
in the studio, as you just heard,
sorry,
a beautiful deep bedroom voice.
I know, right? You should do like what are those fantasy book readings?
She went over to his farm.
Perfect.
I'm going to need you to clip that and replace my intro every time.
He was in the barn shoveling hay.
Brian wants a new intro, so say Brian so I can clip that.
Brian.
There it is.
The farmer's daughter enters the farm.
The farmer's daughter. Brian.
Shit. All right.
I'll try to keep it on the rails, fellas. I apologize.
Okay. We'll reel this one in since we don't even know who the fuck you are yet.
It's true.
Tell us, who are you, brother?
My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
You keep saying that. Stop saying that.
My name is Jason Nivens. I have spent the last nearly 20 years on terrestrial radio, corporate radio in Kansas City up until May. Ooh, that's my feedback on my headphones. May, when I got downsized because the corporation decided that they wanted some changes to be made, and I got caught up in that wash. So since then, I've been waiting tables and slinging beers and started my own podcast. So here we are.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
We'll dive into a lot of that, I'm guessing, here in a little bit.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
what I want to do.
We've got you in here, obviously, because you're the one with the biggest resume at this table, for sure. Media in 2025.
Yeah, it's thanks. It is it's gotten exponentially worse in terms of the line in the sand and the sides that have been chosen. I think it's very difficult, as we've come to see, to engage in honest engagement with people, because we have gone from a place where we, I think, accepted facts, whether we liked them or not. We accepted them to be real, and now we're in a place where, even though one of the very popular mantras over the few years was like, fuck your feelings. Mm-hmm. The feelings are what dictate how people are choosing to consume certain media. Because if something is factually reported and they don't like it, they go, well, I don't like that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go over here, and he's going to tell me, or she's going to tell me what I do like, and that's what I like.
And it's I'd like to jump onto that.
Echo chambers, man.
That's well, part of that is, I mean, how many fans do you have that if you were a newscaster, if you were trying to put out the political spectrum, so to speak, back on the day in the radio, how many fans would listen to you and take your word for gospel because it's you?
I don't know.
I bet lots.
Maybe. I mean, I know that when I did the rock radio stuff, I tried to, I guess, avoid hot topics because it just didn't apply to and here's the latest from Shinedown. You know what I mean? You're not going to be like, hey, pro-choice, here's the latest from Shinedown. You know what I mean? You're just going to just accept the fact that this is the latest from Shinedown. But then when I would get on the news talk side of things, and I would express some opinions about something going on and calling out maybe a double standard or hypocrisy that I saw, that's when I would potentially I would get on the text line vitriol that just makes you go wow, this is wow, 913 whatever, you're kind of a tough guy, aren't you? And it's that void, that accountability that I think that social media and text lines for radio and the internet has made people be like, I can say whatever the hell I want.
Yeah.
Because I can say whatever I want about Randy, because he ain't going to say shit to me. But then if I see Randy in public, it might be a different thing where it's like, oh, no, I was just playing, man. It's just a joke. You guys got to have a sense of humor.
And I think that turns immediately into the physical aspect of it, which is, we've talked about this in the Customer's Always Right with Jason Agers of Long Bell Pizza. Mm-hmm. If you're not in fear of getting punched in the face for what you say, you'll type whatever you want with your thumbs.
I mean, I think the greatest example was the guy on the plane talking shit to Mike Tyson. I mean, the guy was in his face, drunk. Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he might have thrown the fight with Jake Paul, but it was Mike Tyson. I mean, he might have lost to Jake Paul. Excuse me. I mean, lost to Jake Paul.
Staring death right in the face, man.
Did he lose to Jake Paul, or did he financially gain with Jake Paul?
I think that he financially gained with Jake Paul.
I'm not saying it was rigged. I'm not saying that Jake Paul didn't win. I'm saying, simply put, I think after round one, they both remembered, oh shit, this is a pay-by-round.
This is a big payout.
The first two rounds with the Tyson after that. But I mean, I think the real winner of all that was Netflix, because everybody on the globe was like, this sucks. Yeah. This sucks. I went from watching it on the TV to my phone out to the beer shed to watch it out there, because I finally got it where it wasn't like trying to watch Cinemax in the 90s going, I see a boob. You know what I mean?
Who the hell was streaming it? There was
Netflix was.
Antonio Brown. No. Antonio Brown.
Oh, yeah, was there
like
streaming it.
Live streaming it.
Streaming
Had like
it or
4
whatever.
million people watching his live stream on X at one point.
And it was better quality than what was put out.
That's
on
hilarious.
Well, so back to what you said. It's like what seems like happening is that I think maybe Sam Harris talked about this. Like the price of being an asshole is literally nothing now with social media.
You're rewarded.
Yeah.
I was gonna say there is a price, and you get paid to do
some
it.
sort of consequence, right? Like you get punched in the face. Now it's like, man,
I grew up. I think we're all relatively the same age, and I grew up with a lot of like, you have to be held accountable for your actions and what you say and what you do and etc. And now, like, we reward bad behavior, right? We absolutely do, right? And you could go back and harken that on Jerry Springer. You can go back and say it's Morton Downey Jr. You know, you could even though
you don't even tell him Morton Downey Jr. is though.
Rush Limbaugh, even though Rush Limbaugh's been gone for how many years and no one really remembers anything he contributed other than vitriol.
Yeah.
Like,
He contributed his radio voice about like yours.
yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah.
That's all I remember of him.
Yeah.
He had a really good body.
I don't know about that. But I mean, I did see something a couple days ago that it was an older video, but a influencer was following a man around a mall, putting his phone in his face, kept following him. Dude's like, get away from me, get away from me. Shot him in the stomach. The guy lived, luckily, but the guy didn't get in trouble for shooting him. It was a stand your ground state, but the influencer did not learn from it. He said, I'm going to keep doing it. He just gained followers because of it.
Right.
I've seen this. And in fact, he said, no, I brought it on myself.
He took responsibility, but says he's not stopping.
Okay, now let me ask you a question. How much money is this influencer making, and how much money am I willing to take a shot in the gut for at this point? Because let's talk.
Not worth it. Not worth it.
Was there a discussion about where did he discuss with the guy who shot him where to shoot him? Was it,
No, it wasn't staged. It was.
It wasn't staged on the. Okay, so
that's another thing we think. We think that everything that we see is just.
I don't know what's real anymore.
Right. And I just shared a bite with Jason, and we were actually discussing this. You know, how much of the social media stuff is staged now? How much is staged? How much is for attention versus how much is actual just like raw data that's out there for real?
Having a daughter who's 16, and she sometimes gets too wrapped up in the rabbit hole of Instagram. I have to tell her, like, look, all those people with 1.9 billion followers or whatever they are, that picture that you're seeing, that's like the 78th or 79th photo taken. Because they have to get the absolutely perfect photo.
Well, not only that,
it's candid.
It's with a rented Lamborghini, a rented house. Right. They rent it by the hour. They're not living there. They're not leasing it. They're not buying it. They act like they do.
Well, I've heard a lot of times now Airbnb for a day or two.
Airbnb. I believe the statistic was like 75% of all influencers is fake. They'll buy stuff, return it.
I mean, we do that too, but
I feel like
let's not point fingers.
I mean, come on.
I mean, we buy stuff and return it.
Takes back everything.
We don't buy it, take a picture with it just to post it, and then return it.
No, I'm with you. I understand what you're saying.
I think there's a level of depth to it though, where you find your real and your raw influencers, and I'm gonna shout them out: Cletus McFarland, Garrett Mitchell. You know, this guy, he has followers, but he puts everything out there. He puts his successes, he puts his failures. He also, the second he has a failure, he owns up to it. He pays it back. He does what he needs to, and he's had a lot of great successes. And you know, he has a helicopter and he's flying out and helping people when there's flooding instead of going on date night.
I think he's the outlier, though. That's the unfortunate part.
You know what? I don't think he's the outlier. I think that he's an outlier in your world. And I will say that because I think I've got a lot of these influencers that are drop what we're doing, drop the race car, drop the mini jets, and let's go do good for people. How many of those are there out there? The nice guys finish last.
That's hard, man.
But at the same time, a lot of them are doing these good things because they know it's a heartfelt click. It's
Yeah, but
human interest stories.
Let me ask you this. If you're doing good and it gets you clicks versus doing whatever you want or being an asshole to get clicks, what do you prefer? I'll take the good.
Right, but I mean, what gets more attention is the asshole.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sadly, I think that can be true.
And I get what you're saying, but yeah, you can go up to a homeless guy and give him money.
Right.
You're probably doing good.
But then
throwing the camera in his face, is that a good act still, or is it?
Right.
I mean, yes, you're still doing good, but it's ulterior motives.
Now, let me ask you a question.
Chicken soup for the influencers.
This one's a philosophical one, I guess, in my brain.
Okay.
If you're an influencer and you're already popular, viral, whatever word makes, you're mainstream. You've got a following.
Correct.
Your life is already somewhat camera. So
to an
if you're going to do good versus do bad, there's probably a camera there. And the truth of it is, I think half these influencers nowadays, though the real ones, have to video themselves to prove it, or they'll get the comment section in the peanut gallery chirping at them going, prove it.
Yeah, no, and I was just about to say that. I think you're right, because to keep the followers, they have to have the camera rolling at all time. They have to have these stunts, these publicity stunts to get past the next trend.
Keep the bump going, man.
With an influencer, and Jason, I want to hear your take on this, and this is, podcast to podcast, so to speak. Yeah. You've got a new one. You've been in media for 20 years. What happens if you put out 2 episodes a week for 6 months and then you take 3 months off?
I don't know. I'll find out.
You know what I mean?
No, because I think I'm on my 23rd episode from as we're recording this tonight. Will come out tomorrow. I try to do 2 a week.
There you go.
I only had one kind of over the holidays because the holidays, like, who cares? Yeah. I don't do video. My wife, who has over 200,000 plus on TikTok and over 200,000 plus on Instagram, says it'd be a good idea. I don't care for it. Honestly,
me either. I won't lie to you. Right?
You know what I mean? Like, I understand the value of it. I understand like the reach I would get from doing it. Maybe that will come. I've always been an audio guy. Like, I've just loved audio, and so I don't really focus as much on the video aspect of it. But I do understand like where the value of it lies. But it's I don't know. Like, for me, it's hard enough to sit and try and like binge a TV show. You know what I mean? Like, when you got 3 kids and they are 16, almost 7, and 3. What you're watching on television. You're not watching Boondock Saints with, with the 7-year-old. You know what I mean? Like, you're not. You and I are in the same.
Kinsey and I don't know what that's about.
I would say you're barking up the wrong tree here. Well, but I will say I feel it because we have 2 dogs. I totally get it.
Those guys, they want to watch.
They want to get Paw Patrol on every once in a while.
The Secret Lives of Pets.
Bluey. Which I still watch a lot of Bluey.
Bluey's pretty cool.
Well, you brought up that people don't trust the media. They're having a problem with the news and the media and everything. What?
It's Nivens, by the way.
My bad.
It's all right.
I was half driving.
Time out really quick. I love that instead of me correcting him, it's the guest that's correcting.
I would have made sure it was proofread prior to publish, obviously. But
sorry, I just
because I relish being the real-time editor.
So I got to interrupt you, Randy. We're gonna come
good.
right back to you. This is just too priceless because Randy is our especially irregardless anyways.
No, I've never said irregardless. Especially, I'm not changing it.
Especially.
Supposedly.
He's a supposedly.
Supposedly.
And
it comes out both ways.
The best part is he always claps back. You understood me. Stop correcting me. And the best part is he's right.
Fair enough.
He's fucking right.
It's the English language. Well, I'm sorry, the American language. We make words up.
Sorry,
this is a little.
Randy, I took away from you. It was too perfect on a typo.
All good.
There.
But you said people aren't trusting the media.
No.
Are we going to, and we already do some, but do you see the future of the news being brought to us by influencers? Is that how we're going to get our news?
Or social media.
Or
I mean, it's already happening.
I would say more influencers, because we're not trusting the media outlets.
Yeah. I mean, it's already happening in a way. Like, you're already getting, people that will sort of report on things, You've got and there's a couple of people I can see their faces. I just can't recall their names, and they do kind of, I guess they're influencers, but they do long form investigative pieces,
For like YouTube and everything.
Yeah, I think that as we continue to have the cesspools that are social media, we as a society are going to collectively gravitate to that for our news and information. Because one, who's sitting down and watching live television other than sports and maybe some political debates?
So
you know what I mean? And by political debates, I mean only presidential debates. Yeah. I mean, maybe vice president here and there, but like, majority of folks aren't sitting there watching C-SPAN, which you've been doing. You've done it for years.
So I wanna hit you with one on this one. Everyone, actually, not just Jason, obviously. Coming back to time and what we will tell with it. Back in the day, when I was born, when you were on the radio, we had newspaper, we had TV. Then we're dial up, and you can't call out because you only have one phone line, or maybe if you're and then the internet hits where there's no dial up, and then now we're at a podcast becoming a huge portion of journalism, obviously. What are we going to phase out next as time continues in the technical revolution that I believe exists, the technology revolution?
Well, we've already worked pretty extensively on the reduction of newspapers.
You have
down 33% already from like 2008.
Yeah, I mean, and then you've got investment bros that are buying them all up, and they're just they're kind of doing.
They're becoming voices.
Oh, they're scrapping them, dude. They're pumping and dumping.
Voices.
Yeah, but some of those places are getting reborn on the internet. I think one of the smartest things that the Kansas City Star ever did was lock down the handle kansascity.com. And they did that before the internet was what it is, obviously. And then they were able to get out of the quagmire that is their giant 16,000 or 18,000 or 20,000 or whatever the square foot glass building is. It is downtown along 670, because the family that owns it now, that bought it up, they're going to be doing a lease to own to a data center company, and they're going to have it's like $1 billion renovation. It's a pretty big reno that's happening to the building, and in a way, it's kind of one of those things where it's sort of silly, because it's kind of like keeping Kemper Arena. They kept Kemper Arena because a bunch of preservationists were like, "No, we can't tear it down. It's 40 years old." And you're like, "It's a fucking glass and mostly steel, a little bit of glass building. Like, how is this fancy?" But they decided to keep it, and they renovated it, and it still serves a purpose. So in a way, you're going to keep that glass Kansas City Star building by doing what it does. So that's completely separate now from the newspapers, and where the newspapers even get printed anymore, I have no clue. But really, I don't
even know if I've seen, other than the ads you get in the mail.
Nope.
I don't know if I've seen a newspaper forever.
You watch the Chiefs win a Super Bowl?
That's when
You've seen the newspapers, because I've gone out to find the newspaper to pick it up when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. Just because
I saw it.
People buy milk and sell it in secondary when the Chiefs win the Super Bowl in Kansas City. It's true. But
so,
I think
it's
phased out.
So I don't. But that's the thing. So is that even though newspapers are getting a brutal beatdown, they're not totally gone. I mean, there's still people that.
Are they more online?
Yeah, because people will reference Wall Street Journal, people will reference the Washington Post, WAPO, even though Bezos owns it, and then they'll reference New York Times.
So is
I think the one that's going to get really phased out, to your point, then is probably magazines.
Let me
other than the Beatles, how they were 70 years ago, you know what I mean? Or Taylor Swift. You're not. Who gives a shit about buying People magazine anymore, right?
Yeah, right.
I guess let me tie in another part of this question. When I say, what are we phasing out as time continues with the technical revolution? Okay, is it brands? Because now you have, the New York Times, but are they selling more print newspaper, or are they a subscription-based online media? And so same with the Washington Post, same with all of them.
But I think all the newspapers had already taken themselves, once they started to realize that the average consumer was not waiting for the paper boy on the corner of the street at 4:00 in the afternoon with "Hear ye, hear ye," the emperor has no clothes. Then I think that they were already looking at, okay, they've slaughtered their staff. They've reduced the people that work there. You know, print media is not what it used to be in terms of being the catalyst for conversation in a social environment, right? Like the newspapers were social media, and then the radio was social media, and then social media became social media, right? Like if you, and I dig, because of my podcast, I like to dig around in newspapers.com. I have a subscription to it where I can search keywords and dates and find out articles, you know, from that time frame. So it's like, whether that's like information about Annie Chambers and her resort that she had for 50 years at 3rd and Wyandotte, which is a fancy euphemism for brothel, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Or like Pendergast or Johnny Lazia, or like any of those people that we talk about in Shape Kansas City. I can read the articles, and then there's all these different articles, and it's all the different sort of chatter amongst the neighborhood and what's going on. So I think that like that sort of thing went away with the radio, and then radio, you know, radio's getting a beat down in and of itself. I don't know if because they're like the New York Times or the Kansas City Star. I mean, we used to have the Tribune, we used to have the Times. Those are all gone in terms of Kansas City. But I think some of those that have figured out how to at least maintain relevancy in some form or fashion will still continue to evolve, and then they'll just be sort of like rebranded as multimedia. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, that's another thing too, is that the amount that you have to staff is extremely low now. You don't have people running all the printing presses because you're not pumping out a bunch of magazines and newsprint. You also don't have to have many employees because everywhere I look is on an opinion piece written by somebody else not affiliated with that entity.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a big thing is like you get all these articles, but they're all in the fine print. It says opinion.
Yeah, it's opinion article from a freelancer that has submitted it, and I mean, probably getting paid little to nothing to have it just to get their name. $20.
Yeah, I mean, the opinion pieces in newspapers the equivalent of a listener calling into a radio station. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's really not much different.
It's the same thing as someone going into a brewery that doesn't like an IPA, ordering one, and then rating you terribly.
Yeah, I guess Yelp.
Yeah,
I don't like Pilsners.
Wait, how did you get Yelp so quickly out of that?
Because as an audio junkie, I was doing some light construction work on my Barragio, and I listened to Anthony Bourdain's Kitchen Confidential. Nice. On tape. It's him narrating it himself, which is great.
Excellent book.
Rest in peace. And 988 is a suicide prevention lifeline, by the way. And that dude hated Yelp. He fucking hated Yelp.
No, everyone hates Yelp except for people.
Except for Yelpers, right?
62 plus.
except for Yelpers. Yeah. No, but I think like to your point about newspapers dwindling down their staff, I can attest to that in the radio world before I was let go, just in some of the work that I did. By filling in on the news talk, filling in for a guy that had to go away for 4 weeks to get himself righted. I filled in for that guy when I was on air during my normal gig. So I was on air on 2 radio stations at the same time.
Nice.
Right? Yeah.
So wait, you were talking to 2 stations at the same time on one microphone?
I was on the rock station.
Yeah.
I was on air on the rock station, but I was in studio on the news talk station.
Oh boy.
Power of technology.
Well, that started a long time ago too, where not so much that, but
I also did promotions and all that kind of stuff. But my point is that like we had no staff for a while, and I was like, oh yeah, here's another hat.
well, and that's the thing is, I noticed even 20 years ago, radio stations, they would have their head producer who did their own shows, who did the lineups, who also did promotions, who also sold advertising. I mean, you have to wear 20 hats to even work at a radio station because they don't staff what they should.
Yeah, so that you take the building of the company that I used to work for, and when it was purchased and we had moved into there, it would have been 2009? 2009? Yeah, something like that.
Oh, don't worry, our fact checkers will get you.
Don't worry. Well, my point being is that at the time there was one station had a production director or a promotions director and a promotions assistant. Another station had a promotions director and assistant. There was a music director for this station. There was a music director for that station, and there was sales on this side of the building, and there was national sales on that side of the building, and like there was a front desk attendant that would buzz you and say, "Come on in."
Yeah.
Right. There was, and then eventually it just whittled down to like, if you're here to meet somebody, call this number, and so will come down to
Come find you.
Like, or if you knew somebody was coming in to see you, like when we used to do the beer segment.
Yeah, I mean, I got let in by the cleaning staff one time.
Right, yeah.
The best part was that was when you came down. You're like, "How the hell did you get in here?"
Yeah.
I was like, "I just kind of
yeah.
found my way in."
Esmeralda let you in, yeah. And by the way, since I've met you, Kenzie, and got to know you now over these years, are you getting taller every single time I see you? Because I swear to God, from the first time I met you to now, I'm like, Jesus Christ, every time I see you, are you stretching? How does that work?
He's a tall drink of water, man.
I don't think so.
But every time I've seen you, it feels like you're getting taller and taller. Am I shrinking? Is that what's happening?
I'll tell you this. You're not
reaching
shrinking.
that age, man.
You're not shrinking.
I am 47, so yeah, I hear that happens.
So I'm going to hit you twice. There's number one, downside here. It's winter, so I'm in snow boots. A little taller soul right now.
But I got my boots on too.
But, okay, so maybe you're shrinking. Can't verify.
Yeah.
I did just come back from Wisconsin, and I had a humbling. They grow big up there.
Okay.
Oh my God!
So you're walking
I'm looking
tall.
around at
You're walking
6'7" and 6'9" like they're average, and I am the pipsqueak, man. I tell you, it's
It
weird.
just seems like you've gotten taller since I've known you.
Well, let's talk about
He's
knowing
a
each
growing
other.
boy.
Well, he's only 19 or 20, so I mean, there's the
Right.
growth spurts keep going to in your mid 20s.
So, talk about knowing each other. Yeah, I mean, we met a while back. We've had some fun. We've dicked around. We've done things together.
Yes.
Media
go a lot of
was
directions.
how I met. I met you not through media, but via a friend, and obviously media connections, and we started to talk on there a little bit. You met a lot of people through the course of your career.
Yes.
I know this through the conversations we've had, through things like that, beers we've shared, and so I'm curious, like, is it who you know or is it what you know nowadays? And I mean, with where you're at, I know that you said you're waiting tables, you're slinging beers, but
Yeah.
you've got a repertoire of connections, and I mean, you made some serious networking connections through your time, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and I feel like it's like I can answer in two parts. Ultimately, I think the radio business, and I think any business, if we're honest, it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's really always been that way. Nepotism is king and queen. Like, there's really no getting around it.
Regardless if it's family or friend.
Irregardless.
Irregardless.
Especially if it's friend.
No, I think.
Anyways, sorry, we're looking at our friend Randy over there who's just pissed.
Oh, it's not. It's still especially.
No,
Supposedly, he's not upset.
I think that it's always been that way, right? Like, it's always been that way. Yeah, I've met a lot of people in this business, and I've reached out, or in my old business, and reached out like in some places here and there, just like, hey, I'm looking for gigs and work. How I landed both of the gigs I'm at now was because of getting to know them beforehand when I was in radio, and but now I'm starting to get to a place where the part-time gigs that I've got that I'm doing are fine. But it's not sustainable for a guy that's married with kids and left a career.
Yes.
I guess we're talking 7 months ago, right? So now I'm starting to like put out applications and send out resumes and cover letters and shit that I don't have any idea how that works whatsoever. It's just like,
That's what AI is for these days.
I've definitely used it in some spots, and I've used it a few times, but even so, like a lot of that, I mean, a lot of that stuff is just all kind of entry level, right? You know what I mean? Which is fine. But, when you go from a career, nearly 20 years, to like entry level, it's a big decrease in pay. So, and I'm trying to juggle it with my wife and what she does and kids and all that stuff. I don't know if at this stage of my life, if I can bank on nepotism. You know what I mean? Unless it means I'm getting back into radio somehow, because I've seen that. I've seen a guy leave a company, go somewhere else, and then come back to the company he left before he went to somewhere else, because somebody else in that company brought him back after he was let go by a different person in that company. If that makes sense. I'm trying to talk in code because I don't want to say his name.
Sure. No, yeah, you're good.
You know?
Well,
It makes sense.
Leadership can circulate, so you never know who. Well, that guy didn't like me.
Well, radio
This
stations.
guy in Kansas City let him go, but this guy over here out in, somewhere
we
out
really
west.
like that guy.
Radio stations are always for sale, it seems like. So by the time the new people come in, they say, well, who would you hire?
Right.
So getting to know you / know you.
Getting to know you.
Letting our
That's right.
You guys are old. I don't even know what that song is.
Okay. He said we're all the same age, and I'm like, yeah, you're gonna regret saying that.
Don't worry, that'll tie right into
Those are
the
all
song.
spring chickens, man.
Our listener, Randy's mom, she'll know that song.
Anyone.
Jason, is media and radio, is it your passion or your talent?
Both.
So
I had a passion for it ever since I can remember being a kid. I always loved the medium of radio. I always would mess around with the radio. This was back before like everything was so serious with interconnecting things. So I learned how to like hook up the tuner to the TV and have surround sound and be able to plug in the VHS.
Oh yeah.
That was on the heels of knowing the beta. Yeah, you know.
I don't think they know what those are, man.
We skipped over the laser disc because it was sort of like poo poo at the time, right? It still is.
It's
poo-poo.
really expensive too.
It was
like, really
great.
expensive.
But it was definitely like a late '80s thing. Like looking back now, those friends of mine's dads that had it, like they did cocaine. So like, that's why they had it. So that makes sense, you know.
who else buys a fucking mirror record?
Cocaine users, exactly.
Mirror record.
So I always wanted to do radio in my heart of heart, but I never thought I could do it. I never thought I had the talent to do it. And then I went and saw Howard Stern's Private Parts when it came out.
Another amazing movie.
And I remember
Amazing?
coming out of it was
Love that movie.
it's a cinematic masterpiece.
vomit.
Okay, yeah. Howard fucking Stern, WNBC. The closing alone with Kenny, Paul Giamatti, when the credits are playing. Howard Stern. It's fucking great. Anyway,
He's great in that movie. Jeremiah's awesome.
after I got out of that movie, I was like, holy shit, if that guy can do it,
Right?
I can do
And
it.
make millions.
And so
Hundreds of millions.
Yeah, so I went on a path. I was at JUCO, junior college, Johnson County Community College, and I went straight into the counselors and be like, I want to be in radio. So they said, do intro to broadcast performance, and you can get into
Did they say, wait a minute, say go really loud and we'll let you know if you can make it?
No. But I know I got that.
He's in.
Yeah. But I did that.
Clip that.
I gone there and they told me what to do. And then I had an amazing professor, Professor Mark Redeziner, who worked with me and got me my introduction into my internship. And that internship was the place so I did my internship over the summer of '98. I left and I started my career in Manhattan, Kansas, where I was there for a little over a year, and then got downsized for budget restraints. Bunny ears, right?
Hey, does history
Recurring theme
repeat
here.
itself?
Yeah, it's my third time.
Does
being
history
downsized.
repeat itself?
Yeah, 3 times right now. And so then I left Kansas altogether for about 3-4 years, and when I came back in 2004, I sent off an email because I talked to my mentor that I learned radio from, who was still at the radio station that he helped found, and that was it. Got my foot in the door, and then within like a year and a half, I was doing nights, and then got downsized in April of 2009 for budget restraints.
Budgetary concerns.
Yeah. And then got brought back in October to do afternoon drive in 2009, which is where I was until May. And I think that my talents grew, especially when I was able to not just focus on the rock and roll side of things, but I was able to branch out into the news talk side of stuff. And first it was the sports talk stuff, kind of like an everyday man on the street sort of thing, and then the news talk stuff. So, I mean, both the news talk and the sports talk, I think it was on for 9 years, 9 years on the sports talk, and then 7 years on the news talk. So that allowed me to really hone it some more.
They allowed Jason, the real person, to be present and not just say, and next up, the latest from Shinedown.
Yeah, I mean, and that's
And next up, the latest from Shinedown.
yeah.
No, you do not have a future in radio.
Yeah,
I fucking hate my
He
partners.
does have a face for radio, just not the voice.
He has the face for radio, not for video.
You put
but
video in here, fucker. Jesus, I said face for radio a long time ago, and
he did, and we
had
didn't
to
listen.
Put in 19 cameras.
It was our fault.
There is some hidden ones in there, isn't there? I can tell.
Maybe.
It looks like an episode. Like it looks like we're live streaming an OnlyMans.
There's none as far as you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Is there an OnlyFans? Like,
Yeah, I often felt like
few in the
when I was on the rock radio side, I was. You ever see those horses that are in the pens just running in circles?
Yeah.
That's very much how I felt.
Okay.
And then when I was able to go on the talk side of stuff, that's when I was like, and here's the field.
There you go. You have an opinion.
this isn't bad.
Buckle up, bitches. Here we go.
More than whether on the nines, you're
Yeah,
gonna learn who you're talking.
I was going to ask you something about that too. Is like most of it's in rock radio. This is a weird question because like I have a 14.
Well, when I was in Manhattan though, let's see, I got hired there in December of '98, and by St. Patty's Day, I was co-hosting the morning show, and so for a year I did morning radio.
Well, the reason I ask is because maybe this is as I'm older and parent more, I'm more acutely aware of this. Is that my daughter loves music. She has the same taste in music that my wife and I have. She also does what I did as a kid, which is absolutely wear what she loves out.
Yeah.
And so my question is, because she wears it out for us too, is like, did that wear a lot of music out for you? Because if you're a music fan before, it's like
I've been honest on numerous times about this, and I know that they're Kansas City based, but if I never hear Puddle of Mud again, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with
I know
that.
they were Kansas City based.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you fucking hate them? Sha-la-la-la, you fucking hate them.
I mean, as I would always tell people, it's a nice little hybrid of Suicidal Tendencies, I Saw Your Mommy, and Summer Lovin' from Grease, because that is literally the mashing point for that song. But it is. It's
have you ever heard of Grease before?
I've heard of Grease.
Summer Lovin'. I mean, Wes would break that down. He would break that down in the song in concert and then come back to She Hates Me.
God.
Some of that stuff, yeah, definitely. And I think sometimes too, bands that you maybe put on a pedestal or maybe thought highly of would show their true colors sometimes, and it would make you a little disappointed in their attitude towards some of their fans.
Separate the art from the artist, man.
Which is yeah, sure. I understand that, but like when it kind of affects you viscerally and like deeply, you go, man, fuck that guy. You know what I mean?
I don't know how your radio station ran, but I interned, I think, 2006 for a little while in a rock radio station. It was all preset and everything. Basically, you just turned the volume all the way down and listened for your next cue to come in. A lot of times your cue was already pre-recorded the night before and nobody was even in the studio.
So that's voice tracking. What you're talking about there is voice tracking. And that was a common thing that was created for a lot of the smaller markets, as is the case, right? So they created this in the smaller markets so that major market talent could come into the smaller markets and help the smaller markets sound a little more robust. And then it turned into a place where you started to have people voice tracking in the major markets or the larger markets because it was a cost-effective thing. And then it became a situation now where it's asinine. There is a top 40 station in the umbrella of where I used to work that they have a live morning show, right? And they repackage that, and then they have it in the afternoons in St. Louis. And St. Louis's live morning show on the top 40 station is repackaged and rebranded for the afternoons in Kansas City. And that is, to me, that is a death blow to the radio business because you don't have the intimacy of localism, and that's what radio's success. Yes, there's been syndicated shows that have been successful. Yes, there are still syndicated shows that are successful. But when you look at pound for pound, what I think makes radio enjoyable and digestible and consumable is when you have that local flair. Look, I love the shit out of the fish fry with Chuck Haddix. right? You know what I'm talking about? KKFI. He's been doing it for 30 years. The guy is a legend.
90.1, man.
Yeah, he's put out a book. He's got a whole library, like an entire warehouse full of music. There are times when I listen to him and I'm like, God damn it. He is just so milquetoast.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what? That's my guy, and I will fight to the death for that guy and support him because I think he's just an immense talent. And then you hear like, you know, hey, it's DJ Quazzo from San Antonio, and you're like, what the hell is this? Like, what? How is this playing in Kansas City? That's a completely made up name, and that's a completely made up personality. But that's what happens when
Cease and desist coming.
Yeah, right. But that's what happens when they start they start cutting so much fat that now you cut the bone to where you have nothing left.
But I mean,
budgetary restraints, man.
especially the morning shows, a lot of radio stations, I mean, you can go to 50 cities in this country and hear the same morning show because it's all contracted out.
No. Yes, and no. So the company that I came from attempted to do that with their alternative stations, and it did not work. It failed. It failed in L.A. It failed in New York. It failed.
I'm talking like the Bob and Toms and the this and that.
So I have a beef with Bob and Tom.
Here we go. I need to hear this. It sounds like I opened a can of worms.
When I was downsized for budget restraints, and the first time, right, A New Hope, that was Star Wars guys, you know.
Oh, yeah.
That the reason why they told us was they were cutting corners. They were cutting me, my morning show co-host. They were cutting the afternoon drive guy / music director. They were cutting the night guy, and they were going to bring in Bob and Tom because it was going to be cheaper. There was actually some political bullshit behind it because all those people that got let go, we all went out and did day drinking and were clowning on our boss because our boss was a clown, and then a part-time kid went and ratted on us, and then we all got whacked because of it. But Bob and Tom came in to replace us. And I will say, I think that is one of the blandest, safest, easiest, just like...
Oh, it's on. I turn it off.
It's the antithesis of Howard Stern, right? Like, it is like... But they did do one bit that has stuck with me now for 25 years. They made a bit about a shipping company from Norfolk, Virginia, and Waypal something, and they were merging, and they were Norfolk and Waypal, and I thought, son of a bitch, even a broken clock is right twice, you know, like, God, that's good. Norfolk and Waypal, we're gonna ship the best stuff to your whatever, and I was like, that's a pretty good bit, but I think Bob left or Tom retired, one of the two. Like, it's not it's still the Bob and Tom show, but Bob's gone or Tom's gone. It's kind of like, is it Kid Craddock or Burt Weiss? Kid Craddock. Kid Craddock has a syndicated show. Kid's been dead for I don't know how many years.
Got a lot of episodes taped, man.
No,
Right?
but I'm saying, like, the brand itself continues on, and to your point, yeah, some of those smaller markets especially, they'll carry that show,
But you brought something up. He's been dead for somebody's got a show that's going on that's been dead. At what point do we no longer need people that once they pass away, we're just going to use AI and voice changing and continue the show?
One of the stations in town still plays Casey Kasem's.
Really?
Top 40.
Shit, man.
It's top 40.
I did hear Casey Kasem not too long ago with top 40.
Have you ever heard Casey Kasem freak out?
No.
It was a Casey Kasem freak out thing. He was like, how am I supposed to go from a goddamn upbeat story to a dead dog? To a goddamn dead dog. And it is the funniest thing ever because you're like, one, it's Casey Kasem. Two, it's Scooby-Doo. Like, Shaggy is flipping the fuck out right now. And it is hilarious.
Fuck it, we're doing it live.
Yeah, right.
Well-
Old Bill O'Reilly. So here's the thing. Two things. Drew Carey has a radio show, and he did an AI show. And his audience recognized it and flipped out. They were not happy about it.
Really? Okay.
And then there was a gal named Ashley, and she created an AI Ashley where they took her voice with a program director's writings and they dropped her in segments. Now, in order to get your voice into an AI thing, I think it takes like 30 hours or something crazy. Like, it's a long time to get your inflection, to get like how you speak and all that.
I can see that. Yeah.
So they were using her, and she was just like, oh, I just thought it was something fun. She tried to play it off, but then like everybody in the industry is like, bitch. Like, you know what you're doing. Like, you know exactly what you're doing. Like, you're taking jobs away. And when you do stuff like that where you bring in AI, because there are certain shows that I've listened to and they have like a write-up, you know, and in today's episode we're going to talk about, you know, hemorrhoids. And like, you can go on to numerous AI.
They're a pain in the ass, I hear.
Yeah, right? You can go onto numerous websites and create that. Is that one? Is that it?
He has a drum pad. Let him do it. There it is.
That should not be down there. That should be up here, right smack dab in the middle.
Also,
Right?
that was the most delayed fucking drum pad. You have to be better, especially with your own jokes. You have to know when to cue it.
You gotta bring it up on the table.
Just bring it up here and start touching buttons.
Yes,
That's dangerous.
In the
It would be
world of
dangerous.
radio, you would have hotkeys right here, and you'd be like ready.
Well,
to
I
hit stuff.
actually have one that has 100.
I like
Different.
pressing buttons.
That one's got like 38. I can do 100.
Man, what am I doing with my little DeWalt tote bag here with my bullshit I'm carrying around? You guys got all fancy dancy stuff.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jason. I'm enjoying this conversation. Let's carry it over to a part 2.
Yeah,
and
I was leading into that.
get into some more things.
I had one more question
Go
from
for
this
it.
side of the table. Brian and I are both just itching to know. And for all of those
Sounds like crabs.
listening and not watching,
Not washing. That's how you get crabs.
Both Randy and Jason over here have the left side of the nostril.
It's true.
The left nostril pierced. Is there a knowledge behind when you go get your nose pierced? Is it like the left ear, right ear thing?
It's not just the nostrils, man.
Left is right and right is wrong.
I couldn't help but notice the same thing.
There's a definite aesthetic similarity.
Oh my fucking
There is.
god!
There's a.
Oh my god! Look at the sleeve. Pull the sleeve up. Pull your CNC up. Oh my god!
Oh my God,
Brian.
It's Timu, Jason.
Brian.
Timu,
We're in the
Jason.
DeLorean going 88. All right, we're
With
gonna
some
bring
kind
this
of
back
weird
in. We're gonna
time-
wrap it.
I'm more Wayfair.
Time
But-
and space seems
Not quite
ripped.
Timu.
All right, so we're gonna be bringing
Sheen, maybe.
Some more home goods, right?
We'll be bringing
Marshalls.
Jason back for a part 2 for all this fun. That said, we got to get our final thoughts in here real quick before we go to that part 2. Let's Brian, what you got?
You know, it's I like what you said. I mean, and we'll go back right to the beginning, which is that I'm glad that somebody that's in your medium, like this terrestrial, you know, radio, or is noticing this. That maybe it's like people's. We were taught. We're the same age, so I'm just going to throw you in that boat. But you know, my parents always taught that, you know, the filter inside you is necessary.
Yes.
You need to. It's not just accountability. It's being sociable. It's knowing who your audience is, like maybe so to speak, knowing the people around you and the sensibilities of the group that you belong to. And I've talked about this on the show about bad incentives all the time. And you know, you said something about, you know, it's going to get worse. My dream is that maybe as social media, we use the term as it matures, but I'm going to say as it grows older and grows staler, because unless the space keeps innovating, right? I mean, unless there's new platforms coming out.
We just lifted up the fact checkers so that way you can say like Mark Zuckerberg's penis enhancement caused the fires in California.
I've seen some great ones from
I
that.
saw that on the internet, so it has to be true.
It must be true.
Absolutely.
So I'm just glad to hear somebody that you know deals with the public, deals with this kind of, you know, the ability to project your ideas and music and all this out. I'm glad that you're seeing the same thing, because I'm just the normal guy who plays around on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter,
Right.
And man, it's kind of scary.
Yeah, it's a cesspool. You know, I go back to the very first time the Chiefs played the 49ers in the Super Bowl, and we had a friend come over, and she was like, you know, like 90% of the country wants the Chiefs to win, and I looked at her, I was like, where are you getting that
no
fact?
shit.
That's not real.
That is not
That's
real.
not- that's
She's like,
not
no, I swear I saw it. And I was like, where did you get that? She's like, I don't know. I just know that 90% of the country wants the Chiefs to win.
I just want to interrupt.
No.
Oh, go.
Hold on. No, there's a part 2 to this. Shortly thereafter, my mother-in-law walks in the door, and I'm like, yo, Rhonda, you ready for the Chiefs? You know, here we go. First time in 49 years or 50 years. And she goes, did you know that 90% of the country wants the Chiefs to win? I was like, where the hell did you get that? She goes,
Where's this coming
She goes, she had it. She posted it. I was like, that's a problem. That's a problem right there. Because that's not a fact. And you're taking it as fact. And wherever you got this information, you're spewing it. And people are looking at it going, well,
People are
that's
buying it. Sounds legit.
All right. Quick trivia for everyone here.
Okay.
What does 90% of this country unify on? Okay, no quick answers. We're moving on. Randy, what are your final thoughts?
I was gonna say that
Ranch dressing is good.
Did you have one for 90%?
ranch dressing
No.
goes on pizza.
The fuck it does.
Not
Take your poverty.
For a brief moment when Luigi shot that dude, with 90% of the country went, you know what? Maybe income inequality is a problem. maybe the fact that all these motherfuckers are hoarding the wealth is a problem, and then we got sidetracked with whatever
Whatever the flavor of the
I'm
week
going
is,
to go
man.
ahead and award Jason the point on this one.
I'm just ready for more fuckery in the next episode, so that's my final thought.
No,
So let's get on to some more fuckery.
I don't want to hear anything about your poverty sauce or any of your thoughts anymore. All right, that's a wrap. Hit it. Let's go.